Hello, welcome back. It's been a minute. I've been really antsy about coming back to this save because I'm having fun, and I've spent I guess Monday was the last time I was able to record this. But I have been periodically booting it up and taking a look and kind of thinking about where we're going to go from here. So just as a quick reminder, it is Tuesday, the 4th of October, 2022. We finished this season, I think yesterday, the 3rd of October in game, and we finished at 83 and 79, a solid 4 games above 500. We were 7 games behind the first place team, which was the who was it? Standings. The Jays. The Jays only won 90 games, good enough for first. Um, how far back were we? We were 2.5 games out of the second wild card spot. That feels pretty good. Um, And by my calculations, other than the Los Angeles Dodgers having statistically probably the best season of all sides all time with 118 wins. Can you believe that? No real world eaters or world beaters. The Angels did pretty well, as did the Indians, but not 100-win seasons. But they at least was a pretty tightly contested division. It looks like only 9 wins separate the first four. And then the Red Sox were just kind of dismal. But now I'm kind of interested in how the Dodgers did. Walker Buehler had a great year, as did Dustin May. Kevin Gausman even did. Wow, that was a good year out of Kevin Gausman. That seems like that was a pretty good signing by the Dodgers. Kind of a Ooh, Caleb Ferguson has been turned into a reliever. Huh. I might be confusing this dude with somebody else. I thought Caleb Ferguson was a. It looks like I'm wrong. I thought Caleb Ferguson was a Marlins pitcher, but um, never mind. Uh, cool. And they got Dirty Craig. Dirty Craig is a middle reliever. Interesting. Yeah, Trevor Rosenthal. That lineup is ridiculous. Look at that. That is ridiculous. That is so silly. And they don't even have. They didn't even have Mookie Betts in game. Wow. Anyway, we'll stop gawping over these guys. They must have had somebody on the IL too, because who carried them? Was it just Bellinger and company? Oh, they signed JT Realmuto. Wow. I wonder if he's going to opt out, because remember he keeps putting um, option years. Every year's an option year. Option year if you're JT Realmuto. Anyway, so let me tell you what I did, because I did do some things. I offered some extensions to some of our personnel who are not whose contracts were ending at the end of 2022, including our assistant GM Mike Elias, or Elias. I don't know how you pronounce that. I went to school with the guy whose name was spelled just like that, but we called him Elias. But I've heard people say Elias, so not totally sure. Brad Chialek was offered an extension as well. And between your assistant GM, your scouting director, and your team trainer, those are the guys who are going to be who are going to be asking for the most amount of money. Um, for AAA, I also offered an extension to our pitching coach Mark Worrell and our hitting coach John Vanderwall. And the reason I did that is because I just want a little bit of I don't want too much turnover in the minor leagues. Uh, you're able to develop their reputation a little bit. If that makes sense, they are able to develop their own reputations by sticking with the team and developing, I guess, their developing, I guess, themselves. I'm not doing a really good job of explaining how it works, but young guys like this pitching coach Mark Worrell is not going to get any better unless he sticks around a team and just does better, if that makes any sense whatsoever. So we are trying to give him the opportunity to stay with one team and develop our minor leaguers long enough for him to increase his reputation. Reputation isn't a super important aspect. You really are more looking at the type and your personality. You want to make sure that your personalities don't clash with people on the team. And again, the type is the most important thing. So like this dude is a power pitching developer, which I've noticed kind of contradicts what we're doing at the high level, at the major league level, where we're you know uh, influencing ground ballers. But if we could maybe come through here and fire Mitch Williams, who's only an average anyway and is developing finesse pitchers, and Kerry Woodson, maybe we don't bring these guys back and we sign uh, guys who can develop ground ballers, or maybe we stop trying to develop ground ballers and we start developing power pitchers or something. I don't know. That's a strategy that we'll have to think about a little bit in the future. Anyway, so long story short, I offered some extensions. I guess I should have said that at the beginning. We just offered extensions to some expiring personnel with expiring contracts. What else did we do? I did some settings. Um, I toggled some settings, so hopefully our autoplay is going to play a little bit faster. Because it slogs. It slogs, man. I've said it before, and I'll continue to say it. It gets really, really slow. And I know it's boring to watch. I could cut it if I knew how to do like any sort of video editing whatsoever, but I hit action and then you're along the same ride as I am until I decide to cut it. So yeah. Anyway, again, this is the season that all of our pitchers had. I'll sort it by WAR. And then what I was thinking about doing was a deep dive into what went wrong with Trevor Bauer this year. He was worth 1 WAR, which isn't great. But at least he wasn't worth negative WAR. But if you take a look at some of these peripherals, in baseball parlance, what peripherals are things like WHIP, home runs per 9, walks per 9, and strikeouts per 9, as well as BABIP and ERA plus. Those are like kind of surface level, quote unquote, peripherals. And what they mean by peripherals is like, so your classic Cy Young Award stats are going to be your wins, losses, ERA, maybe innings pitched, and strikeouts. And then, earned runs and home runs and walks are also going to play into that a little bit, but or maybe a lot of it, but especially your strikeouts are kind of one of those only quote unquote counting stats that are really going to count for anything for like the Cy Young Award voting, or like the classic old school Cy Young Award voting. So just for an example, so you take a guy like 2015 or 2016, Rick Porcello, who won like 22 games and won the Cy Young Award over a guy like Justin Verlander, who was absolutely a better pitcher, but he had counting stats, right? Wins, he pitched a lot of innings, he didn't have as many strikeouts, his whip wasn't quite as good, and these peripherals weren't as good as Justin Verlander, but he had counting stats, and there are people who are still live by the counting stats and die by the counting stats. And we all know today that wins are not necessarily a great indicator of how good a pitcher is. Which, don't get me wrong, you can't win 22 games unless you're competent, or your manager is like putting you in situations specifically to get you wins. But that's not really how the game works, at least anymore. If it ever did, I don't know. I wasn't around back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, so what do I know? And the game was around for 90 years before the 50s. So anyway, so peripherals. So let's just go ahead and look at his pitching stats, and let's just kind of take a deep dive into what made Trevor Bauer totally bleh this year. So first thing we're going to look at is we're going to compare this year, 2022, to last year. And we're going to come over here, and the first thing we're going to notice is that he was almost 333% better or more valuable according to the WAR calculations, despite having, or in 2021, despite having an ERA of almost an entire run more. How do you figure that? Well, the first thing you can do to try and reconcile why that is come over here to your BABIP. And we can tell that there's a 30-point discrepancy. So in 2022, we can already tell that Trevor Bauer actually was kind of lucky. A 268 batting average, balls in play. It's about 30 points below league average. About 300 is quote unquote league average. It depends year by year, as all of these stats kind of do now. But what that means is that he was really, really lucky. So a lot of balls that were getting hit were being hit at fielders, or his defense was able to make plays on balls that it seems more of them or fewer of them dropped than average. And we'll see when we talk a little bit about FIP why that matters. His strikeouts per 9 innings, not terrible, slightly below what his career average is, about zero point 0.7 strikeouts per nine lower than his career average, which again is not awful, um, but I guess his average now is 9.7, so that is his new standard, or was his standard, and that's what it is now. His walks weren't super out of line from what his career numbers are, but last year we noticed that he walked one batter fewer over um, 9 innings than he did this year. So he walked more people this year. Then we come over here to his home runs per nine, and we see that he gave up more home runs. This is kind of a marginal difference, 1.6 versus 1.8, but it is a difference, and it was enough to make a difference. Then we come over to his whip, and this is actually probably marginal enough where it doesn't necessarily, I don't think that it makes all that much difference, 1.24 versus 1.28. 1.3 is the standard, is what is considered probably average. And we can see that 1.28 was actually less by 1 point than his career, but still, I mean, it's good, don't get me wrong, it's good, but it's not as good as it was last year. And when that's coupled with things like a higher home runs per nine, and an entire walk more than he usually or than he did last year, it just is not, it's not good when you look at the broader spectrum of things. We look at his strikeouts, 148, so he had about what is that, 60-ish strikeouts fewer, but that is almost kind of counteracted by the fact that he had fewer innings pitched. However, that's why you have things like K9, right? Your strikeouts per nine, it's a percentage, right? It's an average. So how many strikeouts does he have over 9 innings? How many strikeouts is he averaging over 9 innings? So that gives you a better look at the overall picture, as opposed to, oh well, he threw for, this is a rate, right? So this home runs per nine, walks per nine, and strikeouts per nine are rates. Whereas this is just a classic counting stat. How many was he able to accrue over X innings? And we see that he was able to accrue 148 of the suckers, which is still below what he had been doing in the 5 or 6 years previous, and that counts for something. Then we look at something like walks, and we see that he had only one fewer walk than he did than he did the year before, despite pitching 50 fewer innings, and that is over here indicated, you see, by his walks per nine. So if, this is pretty basic stuff. Hopefully it's clicking for you. And then the home runs, again, a marginal difference over if you're talking about like rates. So that should make sense. Anyway, so should be starting to paint a bit of a picture as to why he was not quite as valuable according to the WAR calculations. Now, let's actually go ahead and take a look at expanded pitching stats, because this is going to tell us a little bit more to the story. So this is our WAR and the other WAR calculation. So this WAR, this one that is in this second column from the right, is the same as that was on the other page. Our WAR is just a different it's a different way to calculate WAR. I'm not totally sure exactly what the difference is, so I'm not going to pretend to know, and I'm not going to tell you different. I'm going to try to not pull something out of my ass. Anyway, it looks like win probability added is not calculated any further back than 2 years. Or maybe it was when the Sims started back in 2020. I don't know. We'll see going forward, though. But we see that his win probability added was actually even, which is interesting. Again, unless it just didn't calculate it. But I see no reason that it wouldn't calculate that, but would calculate WAR. FIP minus is the league average FIP, I suppose. Pluses and minuses generally indicate what how a player did relative to the rest of the league. So this would indicate with a 101 FIP minus that he was 1% worse, had a 1% higher FIP than the league average. And you want your FIP to be low. So see, if you come up here to his FIP minus being 60, that means that he was, his FIP was, I guess, 60% the value of what the league average was, which is a good thing. Because again, you want it to be lower. Now we come over here to his FIP. So FIP, as I mentioned before, is fielding independent pitching, and I didn't do a really good job of explaining why that is a better calculator than ERA of a pitcher's worth. So his FIP was 4.96. His actual ERA, if I remember right, was something like 4.25. FIP actually is a calculation that takes a pitcher's performance with a pitcher's performance and takes all of the defense out of his performance. So it assumes an average number of outs are made on every ball in play. So whether it was a home run in real life or whether it is, so if you take like 10 at bats and the ball is put into play 3 times, the calculation would assume that out of every ball in play, 7 of them are going to be putouts and 3 of them are going to not, or 3 of them are going to drop in for a hit. That's the calculation. But then when you start throwing in things like strikeouts and walks and hit batsmen, which are things that the pitcher is directly able to control, that's where FIP comes in. So it does a good job of showing, I guess, the pitcher's performance relative to. I'm going to think of exactly how to word it because I'm not super familiar with it. If you're really interested in it, then I would highly recommend you go to like Fangraphs or Baseball Reference and look up one of their explanations because they do a much better job of explaining it than I do. However, FIP puts a bigger emphasis on things that the pitcher is able to control, like walks, hit batsmen, and like strikeouts. Again, I'm not trying to be redundant, but I'm just trying to explain it as much as I possibly can. It's not a good indicator, I think, of a pitcher who allows more barrels than an average pitcher. So what that means is that FIP doesn't really care if your home run rate is high. It doesn't really take that into account whatsoever. Those hits that the equation use are just like general hits. It doesn't matter if they went over the fence and counted as a run, which counts against your ERA, and I think should count against your FIP, or if it just dropped in for like a single with 2 outs and then it immediately became a moot point because you struck the next dude out. If somebody can do a better job of explaining FIP in layman's terms to myself, I would super appreciate it because it's something that I'm not quite. People like, I think people jump on trends of like, oh, FIP is the new thing for, FIP is the new way to measure a pitcher's worth that's not ERA. And I will admit that ERA has its flaws, but and FIP is supposed to be something that takes luck out of the draw. However, I think that some of the things that ERA is able to account for that I don't think FIP necessarily does, like home run rate, unless FIP does, but everything that I read says that FIP does not take into account things like the amount of home runs allowed by a pitcher. It's just really more focused on how many people he walks and stuff. But if someone is able to explain that a little bit more to myself, I would greatly appreciate it. But that's a quick and absolutely useless explanation of what FIP is. There's a calculation, there's a formula for it, and you are more than welcome to go and look it up yourself and draw your own conclusions. But FIP and ERA are 2 ways that I think when you combine the 2 in tandem, it does a much better job of painting the whole picture than just relying on either FIP or ERA. So that is what I will say is this: if your FIP is higher than your ERA, maybe it could be indicative of you having a very good defense, whereas the inverse could be true. If your ERA is higher than your FIP, you're getting unlucky. And your defense isn't making plays, or things that are outside of your control, like batters being able to hit balls out of the park, which, again, I'm a little bit dubious as to whether or not you have worse control or whether or not that's a reflection of your control. But I'm not going to debate the people who come up with these stats like Bill James because they're smarter than I am. So anyway, that's our deep dive into Trevor Bauer and why he was not quite as valuable as his 4.25 ERA would suggest. But let me remind you something. Let's just, and this is for anybody out there. At the end of the day, he's still a guy who pitched to a 4.25 ERA, which is ERA still makes sense. There's still a place for it. He pitched 137 innings, which was less. He needed 5 or 24.1 more innings to qualify for the ERA title. So I don't think it was a bad season. I don't think that this is necessarily a bad season, even though, 1.0 WAR doesn't really look all that good. And then you can do things like concede that his batting average on balls in play was a little lucky, and his peripherals were down, but still, I think that the value comes from what you can see. And I can see that he pitched 137 innings and allowed, 4.25 runs over or his ERA was 4.25, and he gave us 11 wins, which I think that, again, I'll restate that I think sabermetrics and classic stats all have their place, and both of them, when used in tandem, give you a much better and clearer picture of what's going on than just using one over the other. I guess if someone put a gun to my head and say, hey, you have to dump traditional stats in favor of sabermetrics, I would understand why. But thankfully, nobody's asking me to do that. So anyway, Dalshay, we continue. Anyway, enough of that. Let's go ahead and we will simulate the playoffs. I want to see if this works. If we are in fact moving a little bit faster. And let's get to cool stuff like, oh, that looked like it was moving really quick. Okay, Tyler Mahle still has a strained ab, but he's not going to be pitching anyway. So anyway, he's not going to be pitching anyway. So not a huge deal. Playoff end. So this does look like it's moving faster. Active roster is full. Whatever. Let's just. I can't just activate them. Let's just. Okay. We'll just waive Ramon Arias. I need the spot for Taz Cameron, man. And let's demote Jack Leiter. Yeah, okay. That makes sense. Playoffs. And another personal message. Arias got claimed. That's a bit of a problem because we don't have a super deep. I probably should not have done that. We're going to have to shop for a second baseman this year, but that's okay. Maybe that just acted as a catalyst for us to go and sign another one. Okay, they claimed him. All right, actually, let's fight fire with fire. Let's go ahead and take a look at perhaps other people who've been waived. All players. No? All right. Well, nobody I want. Team home screen, and let's get to the end of the playoffs. Oh, this looks good. Oh, the Dodgers. An LA World Series. And it looks like the Angels swept the Dodgers. No way. Wow. Okay. Interesting. That is not something I didn't expect that whatsoever. Well, Mike Trout finally got his ring after a 9.5 WAR season. And his OPS was, what, 1077? That's ridiculous. Okay, and another average year, or an average score, I feel like that probably should have been a little bit higher. I bet the sabermetrics will say something different. My season score plus FIP is probably a little higher. That was a joke. Not a funny one. Sorry. Increasing attendance, 23 to 3,100. Okay, so that's a goal that I have to accomplish by 2024. So we're, sort of on the way. We only increased by about 2,000 people. I guess less than that. Hopefully, having a winning season gets our fan interest a little bit higher. If I remember right, we were below 50 at the beginning of the season. Or when we first took over the Orioles, and now we're, I think, at like 57 or something. So that's good. That's good for us. And a final total balance of $17 million, and our projected balance is going to be $32 million, which is great, which means we could make plays in free agency. Cool. Let's take a look at our things. Trey Mancini voided his last contract year. I forgot that he was able to do that. And if I was Trey Mancini, I would absolutely 100% do that too after a 3.5 WAR season. Excuse me, I burped. 3.5 WAR season, a 900 OPS, and he was set to make $3.5 million at the end of next year, or through next year. That was a good contract for us to give him, though. That's a build value contract, and he definitely built value. If I was to say, hey, you want an extension, he would ask for more money, of course. Ben Davis, review of season goals. Team record, while you didn't win it all this year, you should still be very happy about 83 and 79. I am, thank you. Exceeded what I expected from this team, and I have a good feeling about the future Orioles success. Yes, sir. I'm sorry, I didn't really see, I don't see the upgrade I asked for shortstop. Don't worry about it, dude. Nick Allen's going to be all right. He would have liked to see just a couple more fans in the seats. I can't help that, man. He's still happy with the performance. And okay, cool. He's happy with my performance, and he feels similarly with the handling of the team's on-field and front office management. So he wants us to maintain that winning record. We might have overperformed our way to high expectations. Increase it and increase attendance about 7,000 people per game. That's a big ask. Uh, Final total balance of 17 mil. That is one that I don't know. We don't necessarily need to do that. If we spend some money in free agency and propel us to the playoffs, he's not going to care about the total balance. Bring more drafted players onto your team. I plan on giving Heston Kierstad at least a couple of looks, and keep building the team up in order to reach the playoffs in the next 3 seasons. Yes, we will do that. And he'll check in. All right, new budget. Oh, he increased the payroll from 85 million to 110 million, which is great. That's fantastic. Orioles players retiring. Lance Lynn at 35. Okay, well, thanks, man. Thanks for your help. Former All-Star. Ty Moore from AA is retiring, and contract extended. 3 years, 700,000 a year. That's pretty good. End of season prospect list: Jose Cuellar, Cade Grundy, torn flexor tendon. No, he's not going to be on that list much longer. Juan Santana. This guy looks like he's already going to be really good. Yeah. He's been a full season, 3 full seasons in rookie ball. Huh. He's still only 21, but he's an A and he mashed an A. That's good. Mike Polito for the Brewers. Brady House. Bobby Witt, who's this dude has been in the minors for a while too, it seems. Oh, he missed all of 2020. So 2 full seasons in the minors, and he's done pretty good. Done pretty well, I should say. Jake Fennings, Tony Minaya, Luke Lato, and Edwin Esquivel. Okay. Off season begins. Arbitration period. Chris Woodward got fired, and whoever Clintack is got fired by Philly hired Joe Girardi and their GM. Okay. GM Joe Unknown. Wow, AI fired them both. So like the guy who took over the GM spot from Clintack is still Joe Unknown. Anyway, so let's take a look at our salary arbitration, and let's also take a look at pending free agents. Okay, I thought. Okay, so Michael Fulmer is not going to be back with us next year, which kind of stinks. I thought we'd sign him to a bit of a longer deal. I must have not. Let's look at his contract. We signed prior to the 2022 season, and it was for only 1 year, huh? Remaining salaries 2022 is what it says. Yeah, 1.5. Was there There must have been an opt-out, but I didn't get a message saying that he opted out of his contract. Unless I did and I just didn't see it. He does not want... What? Signed through 2022, which is this year. Yeah. Do you want to come back? I don't think he wants to pitch with us anymore. He's very unhappy. I don't think he wants to. Yeah, he don't want to play with Baltimore anymore. I don't know why he's unhappy. Why are you unhappy? You were on the starting rotation. You made 28 starts for us. Every game you pitched in was a start. Oh, he was really unlucky too. His BABIP was 331. What was your FIP? 4.63. Not terrible. Huh. Yeah, he didn't. So you missed out on about 5 starts. So that's about 30 innings worth of work. You could have. I don't know why you missed that. You were injured, weren't you? Okay. Well, you don't want to pitch for us anymore, which is a-okay with me, to be perfectly honest. All right. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and non-tender guys like Miguel Castro, Dylan Covey, Paul Fry, John Means, and Asher Wojciechowski because they're assuming that we want to do that because which is a good assumption for the game to make, because these guys are absolutely not worth, especially Miguel Castro's case, $1.4 million. And John Means is in the exact same boat, except for the oh no, I was looking at his stats and I was about to say, wow, a 3 ERA over 65 innings isn't terrible, but then I realized that he was doing that in AAA. But yeah, good call, game. I'm not giving those guys money. Anyway, something that I debated a bit was not you, Renato Nunez. This guy, Adley Rutschman. I think we're going to offer Adley Rutschman a long-term deal. Yeah, we're gonna do this. Okay. I was sitting there thinking about it for a second. All right, let's offer this guy an extension. He wants $10 million. If I gave you 8 years, would buy out a couple of years of free agency from you, and you would want how much? Okay, well now you're going up. What if? I guess we got to play this smart. Let's do 8 years, and let's be realistic with this. All right, we'll give you 10 million next year, and then we'll go to 15, and then we'll go to 18, and then we'll go to 20, and then we'll go to 25, and then we'll go to 25 again. And then we'll go, okay, by 2029, how old are you going to be? You'll be about 7 years older. You'll be 30 years old. You'll be wanting to make, let's go 27.5, and then we'll maintain that 27.5. Okay, so this is, I feel like this is a pretty well-structured contract for Adley Rutschman. 8 years. This would buy out, what, 4 years of free agency? 3 or 4 years of free agency, which would be, for a catcher, his peak. Oh, he doesn't want that. He's happy with the dollar amount, but he doesn't want to be tied up that long. You know what? I smell a Mookie Betts sort of situation. Okay, let's just, maybe we, yeah, okay. We're just going to settle up with him, I guess. That kind of stinks. We'll try offering him an extension later on in the year. All right, so he's going to take the 10 million, which is fair. What else does that mean? Okay, that means DJ Stewart's going to be making $3 million. Austin Hayes is going to be making 4. One of those guys may or may not be with us at the end of the season. Renato Nunez, yeah, 1.6. Adley Rutschman, we already settled up with. Tyler Mahle for $4 million. Yep, that's fair. Trey Mancini, we're just gonna have to let walk. I don't even know if I want to. He wasn't even asking for a $15 million qualifying offer. He wasn't asking for the 15 million. He was asking for something like 12 or 14. I don't remember which. But okay. And then all the guys that we signed for a single season, all of the Fultonavich, Marwin Gonzalez, Cesar Hernandez, yeah, all those guys are going to be gone. All right, so that's going to be our arbitration, it seems. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and go to salary arb hearings, and then we'll go and probably dip our toes in free agency. Okay, Rutschman signed that contract. Let's see if we can talk about an extension. I can't offer you an extension because you're extended through next year. So we won't be able to talk about an extension until next year at the earliest. But again, that's not a huge problem. We'll see if we can. And if we can, we will. And then fans, of course, are happy with that. Fan interest increases. Okay, what are we at now? If we go to front office, 62. That's not bad. Market size, we're really waiting on that to increase to like average, I guess. All right, so again, let's go to salary arb hearings. Great bat. Sweet. Oh, we got 2 of them. Adley Rutschman and Trey Mancini. That's nice. Very cool. What if we go back to Trey Mancini and negotiate another deal? Because I don't want him to just walk for no reason. What if we do 2 years at 12? All right, let's do 2 years. No, you know what? I'm not going to do that. Because, and I'll explain in a minute. Trade proposal from the Rays. They want to give us Mike Brousseau for Yandy Diaz and Griffin McLarty. Do you play second base okay? You do play second base all right. But you want Yandy Diaz. For Mike Brousseau and Griffin no, I don't want to give up this Griffin McLarty dude. Would you do it for just Yandy Diaz? Discuss trade. Close to being fair. How about Xavier Edwards? It's very bad. You would need Nick Allen too. All right, well, what if we remove Mike Brousseau? You would do this for... Ooh, Travis Scott. Or not Travis Scott. Travis Scott. Tanner Scott. Tanner Scott's a dude that I've been thinking about moving anyway because while his like ratings, his like raw stuff is good. His stuff and his movement is fantastic. His control just kills him. It just totally... It's not good. It's frustrating to watch his whips be so poor because he strikes everybody out, but he just freaking walks so many folks. I mean, look at these walks. 41 walks over 55 innings is just inexcusable. Inexcusable. All right, let's see. Xavier Edwards. Just no power whatsoever. This dude, oh. Wow. So despite a 382 on base percentage, he had a 706 OPS over literally a full season's worth of work because he hit exactly 23 extra base hits. That is, wow. And he walked almost 100 times. That is not good. That is really not good. That's a bit of a problem. In today's day and age, guys like this, man, the only reason I am considering this guy whatsoever is because of his on-base percentage. This dude is going to score a ton of runs at the top of the lineup, but he is just going to be so bad. Like he has right now, he literally has the worst possible power you can have in this game, which is really bad. His power is worse than Chris Davis's with a C contact skill, and that is saying something. And that gap power doesn't have any room for improvement whatsoever either. And wow, even though he walks so much, if his contact was at 60, who else would you do this for? You want Nick Allen. I'm afraid that is not happening. You would do it for Austin Hayes and a whole bunch of dudes that I don't want to give up. No, I don't think so. I don't think any of these guys. Brandon Lau, I'd do it for. Okay, we'll come back to this in a minute. I'm going to stop it here.